Hello, welcome back to Auntie Julie's Reading Room. Thanks for joining me once more. A special welcome to my international friends and the new teachers to the classroom. Today we're going to be talking about breaking down a South Carolina career and college ready standard. If you're new to the classroom, you will become accustomed to hearing break down the standard. Did you break down the standard? Are you breaking down the standard? And then you'd be like, huh? Is that a drink? Is that a taco? Does that come with cheese? But a good question to ask is, how do we break down a standard? Take it apart. What do you think? I'm thinking you should get somebody else to do it. Breaking down a standard is really not as easy as it sounds. The difficulty comes with the fact that there are usually more than one concept embedded in it. So today we will be exploring breaking down the standard based on my experience, which doing it this way has yielded good success in my understanding a concept and further building my confidence to explore that concept with my students. So are you ready? All right then, come on, let's get some. All right, so here we have a copy. This was taken straight off of the South Carolina Department of Education's website. And this is a third grade standard. It is reading literary text, standard 9. Now, this is exactly what's there. If you check, you will find this. So standard 9, we have this in bold print. This is actually the overarching standard, right? Standard, or in layman's terms, which I prefer to use for my sake more than yours, is that this is the general objective. The standard is like the general objectives for me, and understanding this is more for the teacher than for the student. Here we have the more specific objectives, which are of course built out of this standard here, or general objectives, right? So in order for us to fully and efficiently explore these objectives or standards, right, we have to understand the general aspect of what we're going to teach. In other words, overarching objectives, general objectives, standard. Good? So as a teacher, let me take these things off. I think they're making too much noise. I'm put them up here. Okay, here we go. So we have standard 9. As a teacher, I have to break this down for myself to get a better understanding. So words like interpret, I have to check my vocab to see if I understand what that interpret means. And here I'm thinking it means translate, sorry. ANSLATE, forgive my penmanship. Even to date, I think I still need penmanship class. But anyway, we're working with it. Translate, another word coming out of this would be to explain, right? All right, cool. So that's in my vocab. Then we have to analyze. Do I understand what it means to analyze? To analyze is more like to examine. And remember this, I'm doing this for myself, right? To check if I have the skills to go teach it, right? To examine, what are we examining? Evidence. And in this case, the evidence would be information, right? From text, of course. And then we have our understanding as an educator, understand what author means, right? Then the use of words and phrases. Do I know the difference? What's the difference between words and phrases, right? Words are made up of syllables, all right, letter sounds into syllables, and so on and so forth. Phrases are made up of more than one words, right? So I check my understanding of that. Then of course, do I understand what conventions are, right? When we're talking about conventions, we're talking about the spelling. We're talking about grammar. We're talking about punctuation. and all that good stuff, right? Then how their relationship shape meaning and tone, right? Do I understand what tone mean within this context? We're not talking about complexion. Oh, she have a smooth tone. No. How we have tone legs. No. What does this mean within the context of language? When we look at tone, we look at mood, right? How the author uses words to effect feelings. Excellent. Then I go on to, I do understand what print mean, but here, when they refer to multimedia text, what are they talking about? Right away, we can think about text, maybe a read aloud, right? So we can look at videos in terms of a read aloud, possibly. We can look at links that will take them to a text, right? Right here, we can already figure out what some of our materials that we will use in a lesson. So this is for us. So now we're going to go and look at how we would, with our understanding of this, right, this standard, how we can break down these two standards in more specific terms for our students. Me. Now, this, let me go backtrack here a bit. This can be done in a more structured way, right? But I'm just doing this for the purpose of that. Now, breaking down these specific standards for students can be done in a structured way, or you could just write them down on paper. But I have copied this from the internet, and as such, we're going to use this structure to do that. Let me see if I can fix this a little bit more so it shows the entire page. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you're still able to see. All right, so this is the same standard taken from, or one of the same standard taken from the curriculum document, 3rd grade. All right, so this is RL 9.1. It says identify and explain how the author's use of idioms, metaphor, or personification to shape meaning and style, right, of the text, of course. Now, first of all, remember we talked about the embedded concepts within the standards, right? So first we have to identify those concepts that we will need to clarify with our students in order for them to get a better understanding of what we're trying to teach them. So there are ways we can do this. First, we identify the concepts within the standards. What color pen? Okay, I'll use this. So the concepts that we're going to teach is, of course, idioms is one of them. We have metaphor. We have to teach personification. Right? Now these are the noun concepts that need to be explored. Now to think deeper into it, what are idioms, metaphor, and personification? These are actually figurative language. So under nouns that we need to clarify, we could do idioms. This is not I, sorry. Metaphor. Personification. And of course, more generally, figurative language. Hope you're able to see that. Good. Now let me get another color pen. Now note that even though figurative language is not stated in the standard, having done our research, we know that these concepts fall under the category of figurative language. So definitely it is essential to our lesson that is coming up. All right, so that's the known aspect of it. Then we go back to identify the skills that students will be utilizing or learning or practicing. And they will, of course, be identifying and explaining. Oh, this is a pretty straightforward standard. So under skills, we have identify and explain. Having done that, yes, it gives us a good idea what we need to zero in on in order to get our students to understand the concept. But then we get to our learning progression. What are we really doing in this lesson? You know, what is this lesson about? So, how we would state this is the learning progression is identifying. I really do hope you can see this. And explaining how authors use, oh, I'm not going off, figurative language to shape meaning and style in text. Good, it's just a general statement for your purpose, really, because this sheet is actually for you. The students will not see this, and this is a guide to you planning your lesson. Now, having done that, right, we have the concepts that we need to explore, we have the skills that will be used, we have an idea of what we will be teaching. Identifying and explain how authors use figurative language to shape meaning and style in text. Of texts, rather. Of texts. Good, then we get to our learning intentions. This is where we state what we're learning. First of all, based on what we have already accomplished and thinking about the progression, meaning how it will be done, right? For me, of course, I will start by introducing my lesson by defining what figurative language is, right? So, learning intentions, I am learning about figurative language. Let me again apologize for the handwriting, for the penmanship, Okay, now these are actual statements that you could teach students. You could put these on charts and put them up, right? Just in case you're being assessed and they come in, your assessors pop in and say, okay, what are we learning? I am learning about figurative language, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay, so we're learning figurative language. I am learning about types of figurative language. And number 1 and 3 could be compiled together, or you could do without either one. All right, I am learning about, what are the things that they're learning about? Idioms, metaphor, and personification. Personally, I would not teach metaphor without teaching simile. It doesn't matter the grade. Even if it's fifth grade, I would definitely introduce simile with metaphor. If it's even the students are already aware of what a simile is, right? You still want to revise that just to verify that you're not leaving a gap there to connect metaphor. And they're basically the same thing. So teaching simile could be a way for you to help them to identify metaphors. All right, and what were we at? Numbers number 1, 2, 3. Number 4 would be, okay. I'm learning identify and explain. You write idioms because you want to make it specific for you as well as the students, but they're not seeing this, remember. So idioms, what's the other one? Metaphor, personification. Good. And the other part of the standard, how to explain how authors use figurative, figurative language. Or you could list them out: idioms, personification, metaphor. 2, to shape the meaning and the style of text. Now, having done that, of course, you would do this prior, during your planning to make sure you understand that. Now, having done the learning intentions, what this does for you is help you to create sharper, more defined I can statements, right? So from that, we come up with our I can statement. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have 5, 6 I can statements, right? So I can statement that could come from that. I can use a different color. I'm tired of that color. Right? I usually have my bullets here. Use that. I can define figurative language, figurative language, right? Next one would be, let me pull this over. I can identify and explain idioms. I mean, you should get the general idea. Idioms, metaphor, and personification. and then go further. Where's my thing? And I do this. I just love color. I'm sorry. All right, then we go to the other one. I can explain. Oh my God, look at that. Yeah. And there I was trying to keep the color coordination. But anyway, let's work with it. Explain how the author uses figurative figurative language to shape text or shape text style. All right, so there you have, from all of that, you just have 3 I can statements. All right, so there you have broken down your standards into concepts, skills, learning progression, learning intentions, and you have your I can statement, right? This will lead you to plan your lesson, the progression of your lesson. Having an I can statement, okay, first I will define figurative language. How am I going to do it? This helps you to decide how to introduce your lesson, right? Then what's next? What's the other thing? What's the other thing? So it tells you, it sort of gives you a clearer direction as to how to plan. Now, having done this and the fact that you went ahead and break down your standard here, good. When it comes to breaking down 9.2, you would have already done your research and refine your knowledge of these concepts, right? Illustrations, conventions, right? Mood. As you can see, it's all coming back here. Good. Having done that now, then you can teach your lesson. But further to doing that, you still need to present the standard to your students. So how is this done? I've already gone ahead and prepared something here. Now this is how I would write up my whiteboard. This is exactly how I would do it, right? I have my date here. I have the subject, the topic. Let me bring this down a little bit. Good. And then I have my I can statements. So first of all, it is read like I can define figurative language. I can identify and explain simile, metaphor, idioms, and personification. I can explain how the author uses similes, metaphors, idioms, and personification to shape the meaning and style of text, right? So you make sure your students read these. Now, having all of this is clear to you, but not necessarily clear to your students. So in the same way you went ahead and break it down for yourself, is the same way you will break this down for your students. Now, of course, I don't expect you to begin your lesson and then write this on the whiteboard. You would have had to gone in early, write this up on your whiteboard because you know what you have planned for the day. So in breaking this down now, you'll go to define figurative language and you ask your students, what does this mean? And I usually write the keywords in color or highlight them in some way to kind of pull their attention to it. So define figurative language. What do you know about define? What does that mean? Right? They will tell you all kinds of things, but you want to get them to say that to define something means to say what it is. That's one way. Two, right? To define it, tell about it, right? So there we have define, explain, and whatever concept they have, I normally just write it down on the board or guide them to think in the direction where I want them to think. Now, this is a new concept to them, figurative language. So I would just say to them, like, have you ever heard the term figurative language before? And they're going to say, no, I don't know. No, 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 no. Okay, what about language? What do you know about language? They say something like maybe how they speak and so on and so forth. If their background is not providing them with any information to do this, and of course you say, okay, figurative here means not literal, right? Like a figure of speech, not literal, but further together, figurative language is a type of communication, right? Type of communication, and I don't have enough space to put there, right? So it's a type of communication that the meaning is not literal, like TRAL. Good? It's not literal. Then you move on to identify. What does it mean to identify something? What do we do when we are identifying something? Good? So we could come up with, we pick it out, right? They may come up with to show, right? And if they can't come up with a meaning per se that is relevant to what you want to get them to think, you could give them a story. Okay, so yesterday I handed out my pencils to you guys, and you use your pencils and work. I collected my pencil. And now I want you to find the pencil that you used yesterday. How would you identify your pencil? Some of them would say, okay, I sharpened my pencil so it is shorter than it was supposed to be, or shorter than how you gave it to me, that kind of stuff. I wrote my name on the pencil that I used yesterday. Right, all those things, you will take them, right? Now then you move to what do you think explain means, right? And we tell about it. Now usually when I am breaking down these standards for my student, it fills up my entire board here. Entire board. That's what I use my board for. Right? When exploring that. Because it's dry erase, so you can easily erase it if you need the space to, write later. Alright, so you're done doing that. So okay, it says identify and explain. That means tell about simile, metaphor, idioms, and personification. Have you ever heard these before? And some of them will say, no, never. I do know what simile is though. Okay, what is simile? And whatever they tell you, that's what you write. Okay, so simile, right? And you listen to what they say. The simile compares, compares, using, as, or like. Ooh, excellent. Glad you remember that. Okay. Compares, using, as, or like. What about metaphor? Right? Metaphor also compares, but do not use as or like. What does it do then? You want them to pay attention to it. Rather, it says that something is something else. And of course, this needs further prompting. Oh, I'm sorry, you weren't seeing that. It says that something is something else. For example, David is a lion. What could that say about David? So you use the characteristics of the lion to say something about David. You know, say you want to go in depth and explain that, right? And the other easier one to look at right away would be personification. All right. What is personification, right? We give life to objects. If you're going to use the word inanimate objects, then you have to further explain what inanimate is, right? For example, the tree is dancing in the wind. Cool? Now, idioms is another one. I normally would not teach idioms along with simile, metaphor, and personification. And this is because idiom takes a lot more time to explain, and to add this level of knowledge to what you want them to accomplish or learn on the first day, it is just too much. But if you have students at top tier level, tier 1 and above, then you could explain that idioms, where's mine? Give me another color. Let's use this one since it's all coming down all the way down here. All right, so idioms are phrases. That's an A, actually. I need to slow down. My writing is getting more and more atrocious. Are phrases that don't literally mean what they say. And for you to zero in on a meaning or an understanding of idiom, it takes a lot of time because you have to be careful how it is said. Idioms are special phrases, or phrases that means special things. And when you're exploring idioms, you have to point out that it has to be understood within the context where it is used. For example, it doesn't make any sense to use it to someone who doesn't understand what it means. It may be offensive. For example, we often use the term when somebody is going to perform or do something on stage, you would say break a leg. But somebody from a different culture, you say that to them, you may get punched in the throat, you know, that kind of a thing. So you have to emphasize that it should be understood within the context which it is used. Well, yes. So this would be my side of the board. Now, mark you, it's done rather in quicker time, right? In about say 5 to 6 minutes, because we don't have the whole day. Remember, we're teaching a lesson. But for the introduction of the concept itself, of course, you know, it demands the time, then you have to take the time because it depends on your level of students. Now, having done this, I would know that I would have to have a concept chart, meaning that the charts should have the definition of figurative language as well as the examples of figurative language and their definition, simply put. So meanwhile I'm doing this, I would have my chart here that displays the meaning. I usually don't put it up right away, but after we have discussed what this means. Now, after you have discussed and you have gone through and refined their understanding of what you're talking about, then you know you're ready to teach your lesson. Now, and I forget to mention, you notice that we didn't even go to this I can statement, because there's no way we can get to explain how the author uses it without understanding all of these. And we cannot teach both of these in the same day. So of course we will leave this for tomorrow, but definitely tomorrow, when tomorrow comes, we're gonna line up our I can statement just the same and just revise. Do we remember what this means? That way we get through this more quickly and we're better able to address this I can statement. Alrighty, so there we go. That's all. Let me see if I can give you a full look of the paper. This camera is not quite, but I do hope you get a general understanding of what we're trying to do here. All right, let's go. All right, so outside of the penmanship, I hope you are a little bit clearer as to how we break down standards. Now, if you notice, we didn't get to address the second I can statement, and it is okay. You're introducing the lesson, and of course you want to ensure that you build a foundation on which students can further build knowledge. So when you explore those concepts and they have a good idea of what they're learning, it makes it easier to explore the other I can statements, because how can they explain what they don't know? All right, thanks for joining me, and I hope you're walking away with something useful today. I am